Hello, I'm Michael Twidale, Professor in the department. I took computer science at university. At the time, there were a few people had personal computers. I had a very cheap, one of the early ones, the ZX Spectrum, but that was just a toy, it wasn't going to be useful. So I would go to the computing centre, which of course was open 24 hours, and you could sort of tap away in any of the terminals in the public labs. But to get your printout, you had to go to the computing centre where they had coffee machines, and you picked up your printout and you chatted to other people about what went wrong with it. And I think that's when I suddenly realised there was this sort of mismatch between how people talked about what doing computing was. Oh, this is very lonely activity, and you're these weird solitary types that stay up all alone, in your dorm room just tapping away, and thinking, well, yeah, you do some of that, but you do an awful lot that's social, where you go there, you pick up the printout, you drink lots of coffee in the middle of the night, and you say, why is it not working? And people show you the answer. I just happened, out of curiosity, to use one of the very old teletype printers that they'd had, for a long time. It was obsolete even then in the early 1980s, when I was a student, but they just kept one around. And so instead of using the fancy monitors, I used this, because with these teletypes, you type things in and it just printed out everything you did on a great big roll of paper. So when I was struggling to learn Lisp programming, the great advantage was when it all went wrong, I could tear off the big piece of paper, wander over to the TA and say, why is it not working? And the TA would look at it, laugh and draw a big red ring around the bit that I'd done wrong, and I'd say, oh, thank you very much, go back to my teletype and try and do it right. And this was something that's really triggered into all my research ever since. That firstly, the learning of computing is not individual, it's social. And secondly, that certain interfaces, like in this case a completely obsolete printout of what I was doing, allowed the TA to explain it to me in 30 seconds. Whereas otherwise he'd have had to struggle to figure out what it was I was doing, and I'd have to struggle to remember what it is he told me about. So I realised that for me, the interesting thing in computers is designing interfaces to help people learn by thinking about what they've done and talking to other people who can explain what's going on.